Hi there, Michael from Parts and Archives, and today we're going to be talking about slings. This was requested because there is a lot of different types of slings out there, and when you're getting into buying your first AR or buying your first AK and setting up those slings, it's pretty daunting. So this is kind of just a general overview, talking about what you should get, what are the accessories, and what are the different types. So the general overview of hey, why should you listen to who I am? I personally have shotguns for a good amount of time. I'm not a SF CAG Delta man. I'm a general regular dude like everybody else who goes and shoots a little bit more often than your average guy. So I'm not coming at this with any biases of any overseas trauma, nothing along those lines. I'm giving this from a regular guy perspective, and I think that's a perspective that's a little bit lacking right now. So the rifle setups that you see here are all running a specific type of sling setup, and that is the 2-point. So first question you may ask is, well, what is a 2-point? Well, the general types of slings that there are is 3. The 1-point, 2-point, and 3-point. We're going to go ahead and cover that in chronological order, starting with the 1-point. So what is a 1-point sling? A 1-point sling is a sling that attaches on one point of the rifle. Generally, what you'll see with a 1-point sling is it will attach at the rear of the rifle, right there. Now, you may ask, why a 1-point sling versus the setup that I have here, which is a 2-point sling, here and here? Well, 1-points provide a different type of movement style. With a 1-point sling, you can swap shoulders with your rifle, and it's very easy to maneuver. So it was really common back in the day, and so people were generally running these sling setups. Why did it fall out of style? Why will people tell you not to run it? The infamous ball tap. It's exactly what it sounds like. When you're running a 1-point sling, because it dangles on a single point on your body, it has a tendency to tap your balls, which is less than stellar. It's also not the best for retaining the rifle to you. It has a tendency to bounce and move around. So, not the best. So then, what do I personally use? The 2-point. The 2-point is very baby simple, as it said, attaching at 2 points. And all 3 of these rifles, which I will cover their setups in a minute, are running that 2-point setup. It's attached by 2 points, usually at the rear, and at the front or the midpoint of the rifle. That is to help with maneuverability. You can swim out of it, meaning that you take your hand out of the sling, so it can be around only the neck, or it can be wrapped around the shoulder and under the armpit. And then a 3-point. The 3-point was pretty common as a bridging of the two. This was very, very common with 1-points coming out of fashion, 2-points being in, and 3-points being this middle ground. Traditionally, what you see with 3-points is that it can be a 1-point or a 2-point, hence 3 points. So the point of it is that you can clip into it, run it as a 1-point, and then when mission dictates, you can put it as a 2-point, usually by a clip system. You clip onto 2 points. Personally, I think this is an overcomplication. You don't need that many points, and you can utilize, with the correct technique, a 2-point in the exact same way you can utilize a 1-point. Now, how? So first, I'm going to go ahead and cover these rifle setups and talk about why I have them the way they are, and that's a good segue into different excess things that come with slings. So slings are generally attached via a hoop system where you loop it onto the rifle. And there is 2 ways to attach a sling. Either you physically loop it through a sling attachment point, like on some of these older rifles. There is not a sling swivel here because I have mounted a flashlight. So I'm using paracord and then just clipping in a canteen. Well, canteen sling. And that's a pretty common way to do that. That's just to show that with a little ingenuity, you can attach slings to almost anything. Now, is that quick detach? So, quick detachments. This right here is what is commonly known as a QD swivel. A QD swivel is a little socket that pops into QD mounts, like the one here on this rifle. QD swivel mounts are super cool, but there are some drawbacks. And what are those drawbacks? Rotation. If a QD is a non-rotation QD, meaning that it will not swivel, is the best. A lot of the stuff from Magpul, a lot of the Magpul furniture, it does rotate fully. It's very annoying, and that will move your sling around when you're not wanting it to. You want sling mounts that do not rotate, such as the ones here. So, my 2-point sling, how is it on this rifle? Well, first and foremost, it is retained. I always recommend that you retain your slings. Why? A big thing is that you don't want it to get stuck in places. It's really bad if you're trying to get it into a vehicle and your sling is stuck. That's a problem. But this right here is set up this way purely because it's easier for storage. And if I want to deploy it, I then take this, pull it out. Now my sling is fully able to be used like that in its 2-point variety. Place the sling on top of me, can hold the rifle there, use it as a 2-point, and I'm pulling the rifle against me. The sling itself is naturally pulling against me. It has an adjustable strap here to give me more space or less space if I want to be more accurate. You can swim out, hold it to be more accurate, or loop it under like that around my neck. Now it acts as a 1-point. So I'm able to utilize the rifle in that way. 2 points are extremely useful for that reason. Holds it against you. It's really, really great. This is just retained using some Ranger bands and elastic, which is super, super common. Now, Michael, I hear you cry. What if I'm using an older rifle? That's no change. This is a Car 15, and it is about as retro as you're going to see these days. Still has modern fixtures, so it has a light. It has its regular stock, and it has a sling. I just used paracord that came with one of my plate carriers as excess and clipped a canteen sling into it. And now I have a rudimentary, but very usable 2-point sling. I can still run it this way. I can swim out, be more accurate, run it as a 1-point. Super, super usable. So the benefit of the AR-15 is that it is extremely, extremely usable. So, what if you're using an AK? The AK is a fickle beast. This is a Zenitcode Out 104. So what if I'm using this? Well, a lot of AK aftermarket furniture is going to remove your front sling mount. Thankfully with Zenitcode it does not. If you do have one that's removed, I'm very sorry. There are ways to fix it. This right here is running on a Zenitcode's proprietary QD attached to the front. This is a Vickers AK sling. It's just a Larry Vicker Tactical. Am I sponsored by them? No, but you know, I wish. No. You can run it traditionally the same as every other sling. Under the armpit, you can run it here. You can swim out on it. If you have your sling like this, you can still sling it, move it, swap shoulders, even on the AK platform. Slings, slings, slings. All this to say, the best sling for you is the sling that you personally run. I am sponsored by nobody. All of these slings were bought with my own money. All the rifles were bought with my own money. It's coming from a perspective of that the sling market is very lucrative. There is a lot of different slings out there, and people are paying upwards of $150 for some high-end Gucci slings. That's a bit unnecessary. The canteen sling, which is super comfortable on that Car 15, I think cost me like $10. And you can even get it if you have an excess canteen lying around at any meal serve store. Don't buy a super expensive sling. For the love of God, just run a sling. I've made bad financial decisions with my sling purchases. Are they comfortable? Sure. Is a sling worth $150 because it has some padding and it has some guy's name on it? No. Don't be caught up in that. Dudes were kicking in doors in World War II with no slings. You can do it with a cheap sling. And I think that's about it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. You can always shoot us an email. And thank you. This is Mike from Partisan Archives. Be comfortable being a civilian.